All right, let's get right into it. Welcome back to The Explainer. Today we're putting on our tech journalist hats to do a full audit of a guy who has completely shattered the traditional boundaries of business. We're talking about Elon Musk. Specifically, we're looking at the unprecedented, literally state-level power he's quietly amassed across two massive frontiers, artificial intelligence and orbital infrastructure. Since stepping back from any kind of formal political advisory roles in Washington, Musk hasn't exactly faded into the background. Instead, he's been aggressively building an empire that touches almost every single part of our digital and physical future.
It's a pretty provocative question, isn't it? Is Elon Musk now more powerful than an actual head of state? Think about that for a second. We're talking about a single, private citizen wielding immense global influence over vital communications, space infrastructure, and cutting-edge AI. But here's the kicker. Unlike an elected leader, he operates entirely without term limits. He doesn't have to win an election to keep his grip on these critical technologies. So, throughout this explainer, we're going to dissect exactly how he built this massive power structure and what it really means for the rest of us.
Okay, let's dive into this roadmap. To really grasp the scope of Musk's influence, we're going to look at his intense rivalry with OpenAI, how global regulators are zeroing in on his startup xAI, his rather wild million-satellite plan, how he's actually funding this orbital empire, and finally his control over global connectivity. Let's hit that first pillar.
So, jumping right into the AI side of things, we've got a literal $150 billion courtroom drama unfolding.
Right now, Musk is locked in this massive federal lawsuit out in California against OpenAI and its CEO, Sam Altman. Honestly, it's an absolute media circus. We're talking high-profile Hollywood agents sitting in the gallery and a judge who literally had to tell both Musk and Altman to act like adults and stop dragging each other on social media. But if you look past all those courtroom theatrics, this is a battle for the very soul and the immense wealth of AI's future. Just look at his core demands. Back when OpenAI started in 2015, it was supposed to be a nonprofit, right? It was meant to develop AI safely for humanity. Musk was a huge initial backer. He donated around $38 million to that safety-focused mission. But, as we all know, OpenAI eventually pivoted to a highly lucrative for-profit model to pull in investors. So now in court, Musk is demanding $150 billion, not for his own pocket, mind you, but to be funneled back into OpenAI's nonprofit arm. He also wants to completely oust Sam Altman as CEO and unwind those for-profit entities, arguing that the pursuit of money completely superseded the original nonprofit mission he funded.
Now, what's really fascinating here is the sheer level of hypocrisy being alleged by both sides. OpenAI's lawyers are essentially arguing that this is all just sour grapes. Musk walked away from the company in 2018, and 4 years later, ChatGPT becomes this massive overnight global success without him. So they claim he's just trying to derail a top competitor. But then you have to look at Musk's own actions. He went and launched his own AI startup, xAI. And notably, it is a for-profit company that really isn't known for having strict safety guardrails. In fact, while under oath on the stand, Musk had to uncomfortably admit that his own AI chatbot, Grok, was actually trained using OpenAI's models.
And that leads us right into the next major issue, the intense regulatory backlash against Grok.
Because you see, that corporate lawsuit with OpenAI, that's just one of his headaches. Musk's AI ambitions are facing severe international scrutiny. Grok has been making global headlines for all the wrong reasons. Over in France, authorities are actively investigating how the platform's algorithm might have been used for political interference. They actually summoned Musk for a probe, but he voluntarily chose not to show up. Meanwhile, regulators in the UK and the EU are digging into the actual parameters of the Grok AI. They're specifically looking into instances where the bot generated Holocaust denial and other really offensive historical inaccuracies. And back in the United States, you've got several dozen attorneys general stepping in after Grok was widely used to generate non-consensual sexualized deepfakes of women and girls, which is obviously a completely unacceptable misuse of the tech. Now, through all of this, Musk's consistent defense is pretty simple. He claims these authorities are just fishing for any excuse they can find to force censorship onto his platform.
All right, let's shift gears from AI and look up. We need to talk about what's essentially an orbital land grab.
So as of right now, Musk's company Starlink, which is a division of SpaceX, is the absolute undisputed industry leader in satellite internet. He has roughly 10,000 satellites currently floating around in low Earth orbit. If you've ever looked up at night and seen that weird string of tethered stars moving across the sky, yep, that's Starlink. But earlier this year, he submitted a truly astronomical request to the US government for this number, 1 million. 1 million satellites. And the goal isn't just giving more people internet access. Back in March, he announced this grand vision to build solar-powered AI data centers directly in space. The idea is to sidestep all the massive power grid constraints we have down here on Earth and instead use the constant, unlimited solar energy available in orbit to run these incredibly power-hungry AI models.
So the crucial point here is that while building a data center in space sounds absolutely brilliant for solving energy consumption, it faces some monumental, totally untested logistical barriers. First off, microchips running AI run incredibly hot. Down here on Earth, we cool them with massive water or air systems. But space is a vacuum. How exactly do you cool those chips? Second is maintenance. You can't exactly send the IT guy up in a van to swap out a broken server rack in orbit, right? You'd have to rely entirely on highly advanced robotics instead of human technicians. And third, there's the actual data transmission. Beaming massive amounts of data from space facilities all the way back down to users on Earth can be really slow, which doesn't exactly provide that seamless, instant AI experience users are demanding right now.
And then we have the harsh physical reality of space itself, the congestion problem. There is only so much finite space in low Earth orbit. If you flood that zone with 1 million new satellites, the risk isn't just about signals crossing. We're talking about the severe danger of literal hardware colliding at thousands of miles per hour. This is quite literally an orbital land grab. He's flooding the zone before any viable competitors can establish their own networks. And believe me, competitors are taking notice. Billionaire Jeff Bezos and Amazon, who are trying to build their own satellite internet business, have already filed formal objections with the Federal Communications Commission over the extreme congestion dangers of Musk's plans.
Which brings us to a very practical question. How exactly do you fund an empire of this magnitude?
Building a satellite network of this scale requires a level of capital that, frankly, dwarfs the GDP of a lot of actual nations. The target? Somewhere between $1 and $2 trillion. SpaceX is reportedly gearing up for a public listing and IPO, with an estimated valuation sitting right in that $1 to $2 trillion sweet spot. Taking SpaceX public at that kind of stratospheric valuation is the crucial financial engine he needs. It provides the massive liquid capital required to manufacture, launch, and maintain this unprecedented infrastructure over the coming decades.
Let's move to our final point and see how all of this builds into the geopolitical reality of controlling global connectivity.
Because Starlink isn't just some conceptual future project. It is a very active, present reality, boasting over 10 million active users spread across 150 countries. And that massive footprint has dramatically shifted the dynamics in global conflict zones, giving Musk direct influence over major geopolitical events. Take the Ukraine and Russia conflict. Musk has actively restricted Starlink usage for both sides at different times. He reportedly refused Ukraine access for a surprise attack in Crimea because he feared it might spark a nuclear escalation. And then later, he denied Russian forces access when Ukraine requested it. Over in Venezuela, the service was made available following their contested election. And in Iran, Starlink remains available during prolonged regime-imposed internet blackouts, essentially acting as a vital lifeline for citizens trying to communicate with the outside world, though obviously at great personal risk to the people using it. Musk clearly sees himself as providing an altruistic service here, but there is no denying that it concentrates an enormous amount of geopolitical power squarely in his hands.
And this brilliantly illustrates the core thesis of our explainer today. As analysts who have been tracking his trajectory pointed out, if you can provide or withhold internet service, that is raw power, because it's something that supersedes government. Look, internet access in a disaster zone or a war zone isn't a luxury. It is literally a matter of life or death. The ability to just flip that switch, to provide or completely deny a vital global resource, makes the single person holding that switch the ultimate arbiter over situations that traditionally belong to the United Nations or coalitions of allied governments. Which leaves us with this final, incredibly vital question. What are the ethical risks of one private citizen controlling global connectivity without term limits? We are watching the construction of a permanent power infrastructure, one that spans from the AI algorithms shaping our daily information all the way up to the physical satellites transmitting it from the stars. Presidents and prime ministers will come and go, but Elon Musk and his orbital empire are positioned to remain a dominant, unchecked force for decades to come. It's a fundamental shift in how global power actually operates. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Take this question with you, keep a close eye on the sky, and we'll see you on the next explainer.